Morning, everybody. I'm General Col von Hoffman, the commander at Ogden Air Logistics Complex. And first and foremost, I want to thank all of you for joining us for our first Facebook Live Town Hall event. We're going to get to a few questions here that you all have sent, so appreciate all the questions that came in. And importantly, also, we have a few shout outs that have also come in. Before we get to the questions and the shout outs, though, I want to say a few things. I've got three things that I want to stress to all of you all. First and foremost, your safety and your family's safety is our priority. We've done many, many things, and it's not just from this team. Mr. Fox, the Vice Director, Colonel MacAulay, the Vice Commander. It's just not the three of us. As a matter of fact, almost all of our effort in protecting you comes from some really smart and innovative people that have stepped out where we didn't have guidance, where we didn't have a playbook, but just did things to make it happen, to ensure your safety. And I want to recognize a few of the things that we've done. From our occupational medicine flight, Dr. Pepper and Dr. Kleinsmith have gone above and beyond to make sure our workforce knows what's safe, who's safe to come into the workplace, who needs to stay home, and they literally have been fielding questions 24/7 since this outbreak starts. And I want a specific shout out to Dr. Kleinsmith. For those of you all who don't know, he recently had put in retirement papers but pulled those back and has extended his retirement out so that he could take care of us, particularly this complex. Really appreciate that. I also want to call out the AMSO flight within our complex and our Air Force Sustainment Center contracting team that very quickly put into place probably the fastest contract ever written in the history of the complex to make sure that we had a professional cleaning team that was capable of coming in and doing restoration cleaning basically if we had a presumptive positive or a positive case in our workplace. Our maintenance support group very quickly with our headquarters staff established checklist of what to do in case we did have a presumptive case or a positive case, and so that our supervisors had checklists that they could run through 1 to 10 and know exactly what to do. In addition, they went out and literally searched the world over to find cleaning supplies that aren't available anywhere, and hand sanitizers and PPE, and they have been relentlessly and aggressively working to get us those things, and they still are, not just for their group, but for the entire complex, and actually have stepped out outside of our complex and helped some of our mission partners as well. Our commodities maintenance group, many of you have probably seen our Colonel MacAulay's video when we got to get down to the parachute shop and see what they've been doing. They're right now producing 500 masks a day. We could not be more proud of the innovation that they're showing there in providing masks for our workforce. And then across the groups, the leaderships have done shifts to keep us separated. We've worked with the shifts, we've worked with what days we're on, what days we're not. We have folks in teleworking status, and then we have folks in weather safety leave. So safety is our priority. We are going to continue to do everything that we can to make you safe in this workplace. The virus transmission is not 100% up to us. There's no way to make it 100% fail-proof in our workplace, but I assure you this team is doing everything that they can to keep you safe. The second thing I want to hit is that you are vitally important. You are mission essential. We have warfighters out there that need us. We have Global Strike Command, for which we're doing program depot maintenance on the ICBM missiles in locations in Montana, in Wyoming, Dakota, and at Vandenberg in California. Global Strike Command also depends on us to keep their bomber fleet ready with components that we produce across our complex. Air Combat Command depends on us for 4 out of 5 of their fighter weapon systems. Those fighter aircraft are in combat operations today, and they will be for the foreseeable future, and they depend on us for their readiness. Our newly minted U.S. Space Force also depends on us to have software updates for their range operations and their launch operations. The list goes on and on. Our complex is very broad. The support we give our warfighters is mission essential, and so are you. I can't begin to thank you for the agility and the innovation that all of you have displayed in being able to continue to produce and continue to execute our mission every day despite the challenges we have. And that leads me really quickly to my third point, and that is just a huge thank you. We all took an oath of office as we came in our service, whether military or civilian, to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. This enemy isn't the one that we anticipated. It makes our work very challenging, but you all are stepping up across the board. I couldn't be more proud to serve alongside you. And with that, I'd like to turn it over. Colonel MacAulay is going to start us out with some questions, and so we're ready.
Good morning, everyone. As the boss alluded to, we've received a number of questions leading up to this town hall event, as well as many shout outs. So we'd like to recognize those folks and those teams. Without any further ado, I'll dive right into the first question. And this first question is for you, ma'am. And the question is, why am I still here when a lot of folks are at home?
So thanks for that question. I've actually, for those of you who have been following the quick Facebook shots and videos that we've been putting out with team council presidents and others, it's a question that comes up a lot. And I'll go back to, you're absolutely mission central. If you are still driving onto the base every day, and right now 82% of the complex's workforce, direct workforce, is still coming into work, it's because we need you. We absolutely need you, and it's work that can't be done at home. And I just want to point out really quickly, we have about 13%, or excuse me, about 30% of our workforce on telework status right now, but they are very much working too. As a matter of fact, they feel like that I think sometimes they're working as hard as they can with one hand tied behind their back and standing on one foot between all the comm challenges that they have. But they have found, again, innovative ways to support the direct labor force that's coming in every day. So the folks that we have to have, it's because we can't do maintenance on a C-130 from telework, so we absolutely need them to continue to execute the mission.
Thank you, ma'am. The second question is for me.
Wait.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
I got my shout outs.
Oh, sorry.
I answered my question. My reward is we get a shout out. Okay, first shout out to the Wingman Advocates, the entire team that's been going above and beyond to kind of answer the questions and talk to the folks that feel like that they're feeling a little more distress over this. They've been wonderful. On duty 24/7, whether in telework status or actually physically on base. And we're really proud of them. And one more, I want to shout out to the maintenance support group acquisitions support team, which is the team Randy Womack and Tracy Brunson, who've done a tremendous job in being able to find those cleaning supplies that we need across the complex. All right, now.
Yes, ma'am. For the second question, I'll take it. It is, why isn't anyone telling us where the presumptive and confirmed cases, where they are occurring? I know this issue has come up a number of times. We've addressed it in a few other videos, but I can understand why it's still of concern and why it's still on a lot of people's minds. First and foremost, no one wants to put you or your families in harm's way. We are very thorough, very cautious when it comes to presumptive and confirmed cases. But we have to balance public safety with operational security reasons, as well as the individual's right of privacy. In the early phases of this pandemic, the Department of Defense, as well as the Air Force, determined for those operational security reasons that the only numbers associated with presumptive or positive COVID-19 cases would be announced or would be aggregated and announced at the service level. Taking that down to the installation level, we have a number of sensitive, classified, and very important missions that occur here at Hill Air Force Base. And we don't want to announce to our adversaries or potential adversaries when one of those locations, one of those missions is impacted by COVID-19. Though we do not announce members of considered presumptive positive, we do send home for possible quarantine members who may have been in close contact with a presumed positive member. Thankfully, all but a few have turned out to be negative cases. I'd ask you to trust your leadership, starting with the medical professionals here on base who are doing the very thorough contact tracing investigations, your group and squadron leaders, and the complex leadership you will be notified if contact tracing investigations have identified you as being potentially at risk. And now for my first shout out, I'd like to go out to the 309th Maintenance Support Squadron, specifically the installation shop and the day shift OD grind team and the MS2 machine team in building 505 and 507. Although only having a handful of their normal employees at work, they have their team efficiency, their output per man day, and their daily parts completion count has been smashing their goals. They're truly rocking it right now, and thank you to them as well as to all the other shops that are out here coming to work day in and day out, teleworking at home, and allowing us to produce at the levels that we are producing. And now over to Mr. Fox. Your question, sir, is will telework be a standard working option post-crisis? And if so, will capabilities improve?
Yeah, so right now most of us are, who are teleworking are on situational telework. As we go forward and we bring all our teleworking folks back, we are going to take it on a case-by-case basis looking forward and determine what are those processes, what are those workloads that can actually have a delighted customer. That's the goal for anything that we're going to do telework-wise. So we do plan to pursue that going forward, but again, that is the goal, is that we have delighted customers and they don't really care whether they're getting their support by someone physically there or telework. So that is in our future. And that brings us to the second piece is, just how well can they do that job and delight that customer with the challenges that General von Hoffman's mentioned. So back in the February-March timeframe, we actually started out with only about 10,000 concurrent lines for VPN. As we sit here today, there are 157,000 concurrent lines being used for VPN. And we've added some additional services, the OWA, the desktop anywhere. We also have added CVA, which is a new VPN-like service, except you don't have to go through VPN. You can do it through your own internet. So these are huge capabilities that are coming, and that will help to lay that foundation to do successful telework going forward. And then as a complex, we've learned a lot from working through this crisis. It has helped to identify where we're short on equipment, where we're short on capability, and we're going to take those lessons learned, and that's why we've asked every one of you that are actually teleworking or a customer of telework, document what isn't working so we can improve it going forward, because we're going to buy our future equipment to this requirement, and then we're also going to exercise it going forward, because this may not be the last time we see a pandemic or some other similar kind of crisis. So a qualified yes and a yes. And that brings me to my shout outs, and I actually get a few of them. So first off, I want to give a shout out to Mr. Mitch Gill, who is in our 309th Software Engineering Group in the 519th Heads. And his team has asked us to bring this shout out for the wonderful support he's giving and the caring nature as a supervisor. The next shout out is to our own Jacob Checketts, who we couldn't be doing the telework if it wasn't for Jacob. In addition to that, to our Air Force Reserve Center's A6 team, who brought us the Desktop Anywhere. That was never intended for what we've used it for, the capacity. And they've done wonderful things, although it hasn't been perfect. They're doing a great job. And that takes us to our Air Force comm. They're the ones who actually took us from that 10,000 to that 154,000, and then bring in CVA and other innovations online. So we want to thank them. And then our own local 75th Air Base Wings comm group. And that's led by Mr. Alan Dorward, who has done a remarkable job of supporting us throughout this. And then he has a couple folks on his team, Ms. Deborah Higgs, who we've sent all our telework packages through, and she's been working those, making sure that that's being supported. And then the team led by Ms. Kelly Berube, who just was everywhere, fixing laptops, getting things set so that we could support the mission that we have in supporting our warfighters. Sir.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. Ma'am, this next question is for you.
Okay.
Why are we seeing supervisors teleworking when they have folks who are still coming to work on base?
Right. So thanks for that question. I know visibly it's hard if we have all of our folks in a different status. So for the folks that are coming on base, they're like, I come on base every day. Not everybody has to do that. Why does that look different? But all of the measures that we've taken, whether we've put people on separate teams, one team on, one team off, how we've split some squadrons into 410s at a different schedule than another squadron, for example, an AMXG, have pushed a lot of folks out into swing shift in other squadrons. That's all for social distancing. And it's the same for whether when we have supervisors in telework. The numbers that we have in telework are for one reason, and that's to reduce the number of people on base, because it makes it much easier to social distance. And so what we've done is split up the workforce that's here day to day on wider shifts so that we can distance people and have fewer people in the workplace. Then we have as many people as we can in telework status, and where we can't do either of those, if you're in a high risk category, then we have you on weather safety leave. That all reduces the number of folks that we have on base and reduces the risk of transmission, at the same time balancing our need to execute our mission, which we still have to continue to do. So supervisors, where that they can switch out and telework, instead of having two of them in the same office at the same time, it allows us to reduce the risk, if you will, of having them both have to go into quarantine at the same time.
Yes, ma'am.
Yep. And then now I get my shout outs. All right, super. So quick shout out to our interim and additional duty First Sergeant, Master Sergeant Jared Howard, who's doing an outstanding job stepping up into this temporary position, and we really appreciate it. And then also to our maintenance support group finance team, Miss Marissa Kinley and her team are in various statuses of telework coming in, able to move through the FY21 budget review process for their squadron, for all the squadrons in the support group. So a super shout out to them.
Thank you, ma'am. This next question is also for you as well. What should we do when we are feeling burned out at work?
Well, the first thing you should do is not feel alone, because you are not the only one that's feeling burned out from COVID-19 and all of the information and all of the changes that have come along with that. So first and foremost, know you're not alone. The second thing is to kind of breathe in, breathe out, and connect with other people, because a lot of folks are finding some kind of release in just sharing your story about how it affects you, and just trying to make that connection with folks. We were trying to do connectedness type activities before this, and something like this just proves that those are so important, connecting with other people that are going through similar situations. And then you have leave options. I want to make sure everybody knows normal leave is still okay. We still have the same considerations. Can your workshop do it from a mission standpoint? But normal leave is still available. Also, as a new benefit for our civil service employees, is the Emergency Paid Sick Leave Act that's just gone into effect. That's going to provide another 80 hours of sick leave that you're able to take if you meet certain conditions. If you have child care issues now because of COVID-19, if your children are home from school and it's just difficult, if you're caring for a parent or another sibling or a family member, you can qualify. It's 80 hours of sick leave. It's paid at 2/3 of your pay rate, so you have to be careful there because there's some slight conditions that come along with that, some cautions. But take leave. If you're truly burned out and you can work it with your supervisor, then the thing we want you to do is take some leave, connect with people, know that you're not alone, and then there's a couple of things that is true for everybody. Try not to focus on the negative. Part of being burned out right now is the saturation that we have of information of COVID, some of it hyperbole, some of it exaggerated, some of it very true. But if you try to concentrate on the positive stories, we tried to share some of them with you with the shout outs and also some of the really incredibly innovative things that our folks are doing. Concentrate on the positive and not the negative. Those are some of the things that I'm trying to do, and I wake up every morning and go, whew, okay, another COVID-19 day. Here we go. But those are some of the things that I would offer, and I'll just end this with a positive thing that we can concentrate on. We shouted out to the wingman advocates. They're also a tool, to help you feeling burnout. Don't always talk to them. So there's a double shout out for our wingman advocates, and then another shout out to all the folks that have worked tech support across the complex. This shout out was just like the others submitted by folks. They were all submitted anonymously, but basically it was just a one-over, hey, everybody that's working tech support is doing an outstanding job right now, and I couldn't agree more. And then I have one more for our laser depaint team, that despite everything is going on, they've been the experts for over 10 years in operations. They've gone above and beyond your average everyday laser which I don't know if there is an everyday laser user, but they are the experts and way ahead of our commercial market counterparts. And they've taken what was an R&D project and utilized the equipment far beyond what its lifespan was. So good shout out to them.
Thank you, ma'am. This next question is for me. Where is the research-based evidence behind what we are being told about being at risk for COVID-19 and how the virus is transferred? I had to reach out and phone a friend to get some help with this question or these questions, and so reached out to Dr. Pepper and Dr. Hamrick. As I think many of us realize now, the coronavirus is a novel virus. This means that we have very little scientific or clinical evidence or information about this virus. What we do know has been learned in just the last few months, and research is continuing. And so we would expect that information as it pertains to risk or transference between individuals is going to evolve over time. But specifically from Dr. Pepper, in a pandemic, everyone is at risk of getting the virus. Cleaning the work areas, especially after a presumed positive, and following CDC recommendations for mitigation strategies, and are all proven to reduce transmission and risk of virus infection, all viruses, not just the coronavirus. And happy to say that Hill Air Force Base is a lower risk area, has been and it continues to be a lower risk area when you compare cases per 1,000 people. For the state, just for context, for the state of Utah, the rate is 0.81 cases per 1,000 people. And that's lower when you look at the range of states across this country. Specifically here at Hill, the rate is 0.29 cases per 1,000 people. As we look at the second part of the question, as it relates to transference or transmittal of this disease, medical professionals and infectious disease experts have a good idea of how this virus is transmitted, namely person to person via moist air droplets. Simply sharing a space someone inhabited is not necessarily prolonged contact. Obviously, we want to minimize those incidents of prolonged contact, and we've put in a number of precautionary measures to do that, many of which the boss has already alluded to. These go a long way in protecting our workforce. Investment in the expanded cleaning contract that the boss mentioned earlier, our cordon area presumptive positive checklists are also a precautionary method or means that we've gone after to protect our workforce. Data shows drastic degradation of the virus over time as well. So if we can just leave the area, allow it to dry, and thankfully we are in a dry climate here in Utah, so that helps us as well. I'll also jump on the shout out bandwagon for the 531st Commodities Maintenance Squadron, specifically the parachute shop, that are making a lot of the masks that our workforce is using now. As the boss mentioned, over 5,000 have already been made. They're cranking out anywhere from 300 to 500 a day, And they're not just going to the complex. We've actually shared quite a few hundred or a few thousand across Hill Air Force Base to get out to our first responders, the security forces members, as well as medical professionals, CE, and others. And ma'am, with that, I'll turn it over to you for the last question. What should we expect next?
Okay, so here's what's coming next. Let me just start with how we've progressed through this pandemic. So I personally have kind of chosen to look at it in 3 phases. Our first phase was what I would call emergency response. First it happens, we're bombarded with a lot of information. This pandemic's coming, there's starting to be infections in the state. What does that mean for us? So what we did was gear into action. We mentioned the cleaning contract. We very aggressively went after that. We went after checklists to say, what if we got a case? So that when we did get our first case, we were well prepared in what we needed to do that. And anytime we have a presumptive positive case in the workplace, that checklist and the actions that we took in the early stages have paid great dividends. But that was the first thing. That was truly kind of an urgent response, and we were trying to manage different guidance, conflicting guidance, a lot of ambiguity, but we got through that and got into where what I would call right now is our phase 2 part of this, where we're stabilized. You know what shift you're going to be on. You know about the capability of your teleworking ability and how that's working out. And we have the folks that need to be out on weather safety leave doing that. And we have a process when we have to recall individuals who are on weather safety leave to come in, do the work that they need to do to execute the mission, and then send them back on weather safety leave. So we have stabilized operations right now. The next phase, phase 3, is what I call recovery phase. And that is going to be something that will continue to evolve based on local conditions. And so I want to make sure everybody knows we're following federal guidelines, we're following CDC guidelines and what we can do, but also the state and then local. And our partners in the 75th Air Base Wing and Colonel Eberlin specifically are always monitoring local conditions and saying what we can do to move into that next phase. We've already started parts of that. We know what we're able to do, and so we're going to continue those over the next few weeks. We know for sure that recovery operations are going through this summer. We know because the travel ban, for example, has been extended through 30 June. Other indicators that this is not a short-term thing. So those recovery ops will be a blend. Mr. Fox mentioned we may still be in some kind of telework status. It may look different than it looks today. We may also still be in the shifts that we're in for the foreseeable future, but have more folks coming back into work. So that's what recovery ops looks like. We evaluate that with your squadron and all the way down, every supervisory level, squadron, group, section supervisors, all the time to get their feedback for us to be able to determine what recovery looks like. But I'll tell you, we are going to continue to go that direction because we have a mission to do so. And so that's what's coming next. And I'll wrap up with a couple of shout outs if I can. Just a great example of that is the 573rd AMXS squadron and the F-16 work that's being done there. I got a chance to visit them last week, and they're in there changing out, trying to figure out how to change a bulkhead with not as much tech data and process orders as we were like. They're working their way through that, but they were all masked up. They couldn't be further than 6 feet away, all masked up, had gloves, doing all the cleaning work that they needed to do with some people that were all experts right over getting the job done in this new normal situation. And so it's a shout out to them, but it's just one example of what's happening across the complex. And then my last shout out is also what I'll close with, these closing remarks. I'm giving a shout out to all of you all, to the employees that are driving in every day and feel a little bit uncomfortable about doing so, but know that our mission matters. Thank you. A huge thank you to you all. For those of you who are teleworking and finding it hard to do so, and teleworking, just today, I was actually had a call in a telework, and there's a 1-year-old in the background because the childcare not available. This person was still getting the job done. They walked through the process with me that we needed. It's Miss Heidi Fisher, by the way, over in the 75th. So thanks, Heidi. And she was able to figure that out with the telework capabilities and with a 1-year-old in the background, still getting the job done. So thank you for everybody that is figuring it out in this telework status. Also for the people that are on weather safety leave and doing the work that doing the thing that we've asked them to do, and that is to be at home, not out in the public, but to be at home and be safe and not subject yourself to any risk of transmission. It is so important because even though you're on weather safety leave right now, not inside the base doing your work, we need you once this is over, and we absolutely need you to stay safe and healthy. So please respect that weather safety leave and stay at home. So a huge shout out to each and every one of you in those different categories. A big thank you to the complex for continuing to execute our mission. I'll close with this. Our chairman, Chairman Milley, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, was recently asked in an interview, are you concerned that the adversaries are going to take advantage of that? Take advantage of this pandemic to think that we're not ready or we can't respond to any crisis around the globe. And he said unequivocally, something to this effect, I don't have his exact quote, but he said, I want them to try. Just, go ahead, test us. And the reason why he can say that is because people from our complex, people across the globe who are in uniform or who are civil servants that still come into work and support the Department of Defense do so. They do so in masks, they do so in a telework capacity, they do this regardless of what the local conditions are. And we in this complex are the very reason, we're the insurance that General Milley can say, adversaries, just try it. So with that, we'll wrap up our town hall. Thanks again for everybody for attending. And we're out here.
Thank you.